Betrayal never knocks on the door announcing its arrival. It doesn't come with flashing lights or blaring alarms. It moves in silence, hiding behind smiles, disguised as loyalty, camouflaged as trust. And by the time you see it for what it really is, the damage is already done. But here's the truth. Betrayal is never as sudden as it seems. It always leaves a trail. Little signs, tiny cracks, moments that don't sit right. The problem? Most people ignore them until it's too late. Think of it like a storm forming on the horizon. At first, it's just a shift in the wind, a quiet change in the air. Nothing alarming, nothing urgent. But as the clouds gather and the sky darkens, you realize it was never random. It was always building. That's how betrayal works. Small, unnoticed shifts in behavior until suddenly the storm breaks and you're standing in the wreckage. You might assume loyalty while they're testing how far they can push the boundaries. You might trust their words while they're calculating their escape. And when they finally turn on you, they'll act like it was inevitable, like it was never betrayal at all. That's why you can't afford to be blind to the signs. Because once you learn how to see it coming, you take back control. You stop giving them the chance to strike. You stay ahead of the game. So pay attention, because the warning signs are always there. And if you miss them, the price is always the same. Pain, deception, and the realization that you should have seen it coming. But after today, you will. If knowing these warning signs can save you from betrayal, imagine how many others need this knowledge too. Don't keep this to yourself. Hit like, subscribe, and share so more people can protect themselves before it's too late. Your support helps bring more life-changing content like this, and your experience matters. Have you ever seen these signs in someone before? Drop a comment below. We learn the most when we share our stories. Stay sharp, stay aware, and let's keep exposing the truth together. Number 1. Beware of sudden sweetness. It's a setup for betrayal. Not all smiles are friendly, not all compliments are genuine, and not everyone who suddenly showers you with kindness has good intentions. Have you ever noticed someone who was once indifferent toward you suddenly becoming extra helpful, overly generous, or suspiciously agreeable? At first, it might feel nice, like they've finally recognized your value. But deep down, something doesn't sit right. Their warmth feels rehearsed. Their words feel too polished. And if you look closely, you'll see the cracks in their performance. The truth is, betrayal is never random. It's planned. And before someone stabs you in the back, they often pull you in closer. They want you relaxed, unaware, and trusting. Epictetus once said, "A deceitful man wears a mask of kindness until his moment arrives." That's exactly how it works. Betrayers overcompensate with fake kindness, not because they care, but because they need you to lower your guard. Some do it out of guilt, hoping their friendliness will somehow balance out their deception. Others do it as strategy, so when they finally turn on you, it hits harder. It's like a magician distracting you with one hand while the other prepares the trick. You focus on the illusion, not realizing the deception happening right in front of you. In personal life, this happens more than you think. A co-worker who suddenly praises you might be setting you up for failure. A friend who suddenly becomes extra generous might be masking jealousy. A partner who suddenly shifts to excessive affection could be hiding something. So how do you protect yourself? First, trust your instincts. Real kindness is consistent, but fake kindness comes in waves. Second, watch their patterns, not just their words. Sudden shifts in behavior are rarely innocent. And finally, stay guarded. Not everyone who claps for you wants to see you win. If someone's kindness feels forced, ask yourself, are they being genuine, or are they waiting for the perfect moment to strike? Number 2. Guard your secrets. They're collecting ammo against you. Some people listen to understand you. Others listen to use you. Pay attention to the difference. Have you ever met someone who suddenly takes an unusual interest in your life? They ask about your dreams, your struggles, even the small details you barely mention. At first, it seems like they're just being a good friend, a caring co-worker, or a supportive partner. But if you take a step back, you'll notice something strange. They're not sharing much about themselves. The conversation always revolves around you. And if their curiosity feels strategic, that's because it is. Betrayal isn't spontaneous. It's planned. And before someone can strike, they need ammunition. They need to know where your weak spots are, what buttons to push, and what secrets they can twist if they ever need leverage. Seneca once said, "Silence is a lesson in itself." Not everything should be shared, because the more you reveal, the more power you hand over to those who might not have your best interests at heart. Think of it like a chess game. While you're casually playing, thinking it's just conversation, they're studying your every move. They're mapping out your defenses, waiting for the right moment to make their attack. And once they have enough information, they don't just walk away. They strike when you least expect it. A woman I know, let's call her Sarah, learned this the hard way. A co-worker who had never been particularly close to her suddenly started taking a deep interest in her life. They asked about her job, her goals, even her personal struggles. Sarah, being naturally open, didn't see the trap until she found out that same co-worker was spreading twisted versions of her words, making her look unreliable to others. The sudden kindness wasn't real. It was a setup. So how do you protect yourself? First, limit what you share. Not everyone who listens is a friend. Second, watch for patterns. If they ask a lot but reveal nothing, that's a red flag. And third, remember this: your personal life is not public property. The wrong words shared with the wrong person can come back as a weapon. Stay guarded, stay aware, and never underestimate the power of silence. Number 3. When someone pulls away without a reason, watch your back. People don't just wake up one day and decide to treat you differently. When someone who was once warm, engaged, and reliable suddenly becomes distant, vague, or indifferent, it's not a coincidence. It's a shift. And shifts don't happen without cause. Maybe they stop responding as quickly. Maybe conversations that once flowed now feel awkward. Plans get cancelled with weak excuses like, "I'm just busy," or "nothing's wrong." But deep down, you feel it. Something has changed. Here's the truth. Betrayal doesn't begin the moment someone turns against you. It starts in silence, in distance, in the small, unexplained shifts before the storm hits. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Watch what a man does, not what he says." Because words can lie, but behavior doesn't. If someone who once valued you starts pulling away with no clear explanation, they're not just drifting, they're deciding. And in many cases, they're preparing to betray you. Think of it like a house fire. Before the flames burst through the walls, there's always smoke. That smoke is the emotional distance, the sudden coldness. the feeling that you're no longer a priority in their life. The problem is, most people ignore the smoke until they're standing in the fire, wondering how they missed the warning signs. A woman I know, let's call her Emily, learned this the hard way. She had a best friend she trusted with everything. They were inseparable, until one day her friend started acting different. Texts went unanswered, plans got cancelled, conversations felt forced, and when Emily asked what was wrong, she got the usual, "Just busy, that's all." But something felt off. Weeks later, she found out why. Her friend had been spreading lies, turning people against her behind her back. The distance wasn't random. It was part of the process. So what can you do? First, trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, don't ignore it. Second, observe patterns, not excuses. Everyone gets busy, but real relationships don't shift overnight without reason. And third, protect yourself. If someone is pulling away, don't chase after them. Prepare, because loyalty doesn't disappear without warning, and when it does, betrayal is usually right behind it. Number 4. If they're siding with your enemies, they're planning their exit. Loyalty doesn't fade overnight. It shifts in silence, one conversation at a time, one unexpected alliance at a time. Have you ever noticed someone who used to stand by your side suddenly cozying up to people who have always been against you? Maybe they start defending those who doubted you. Maybe they begin speaking highly of people who never had your best interests at heart. At first, it might seem harmless, like they're just being open-minded, trying to keep the peace. But look deeper. This is not about diplomacy. This is about positioning. Betrayal always starts long before the final act, and one of the biggest warning signs. Someone who once walked with you, now standing beside those who have worked against you. Epictetus once said, "A man is known by the company he keeps." Pay attention. People don't randomly switch sides. There's always a reason. And when someone starts forming unexpected alliances, they're not just making new connections. They're testing the waters. They're distancing themselves from you, piece by piece, before making their final move. It's like a chess game. The moment a piece moves to another side of the board, you already know what's coming next. A guy I know, let's call him Alex, learned this the hard way. He had a work colleague he trusted, someone who always had his back in meetings and stood by him when decisions were made. But one day, something changed. That same colleague started spending more time with people who had openly criticized Alex's work. They began subtly siding with Alex's rivals in conversations, defending the very people who once tried to undermine him. At first, Alex ignored it, thinking maybe his colleague was just keeping the peace. But soon, he found out the truth. His so-called ally had positioned himself against him, making secret moves to cut Alex out completely. So how do you protect yourself? First, never ignore sudden shifts in loyalty. People don't just wake up one day and switch sides. There's always a reason. Second, don't react immediately. Observe. See where their true loyalty lies. And third, protect yourself. When someone who once stood by your side now stands with those who have worked against you, take it as a warning. Loyalty doesn't shift without reason, and when it does, betrayal is never far behind. Number 5. Subtle insults are a test. Shut it down before it grows. Betrayal rarely starts with a knife. It starts with words. Subtle words, carefully crafted words, a small joke at your expense, A comment that seems harmless but lingers in your mind long after it's said. You laugh it off, thinking it's nothing, but over time you notice a pattern. Their words always seem to carry an edge, just sharp enough to make you uncomfortable, yet subtle enough that if you call them out, you'll look like the one overreacting. That's not an accident. That's a test. The truth is, betrayers don't strike out of nowhere. They test the waters first. They want to see how much they can get away with. They want to weaken your confidence, chip away at your reputation, and slowly shift how others see you. Like poison slipped into a drink, drop by drop, their words do damage over time. What starts as a playful jab turns into a full-scale attack when you least expect it. Seneca once said, "The tongue of a liar is more dangerous than a sword. A sword wounds once, but words, when used with precision, can destroy reputations, confidence, and relationships for years. If someone constantly makes you the punchline of their jokes, pay attention. It's not just humor, it's a strategy." Rachel learned this lesson the hard way. She had a co-worker who was always joking around with her. But one day, she started noticing a shift. Every time she spoke in meetings, he would throw in a sarcastic remark. "Oh, wow, look at Rachel taking charge today." When she shared ideas, he'd nod and smirk. "That's bold. Let's hope it actually works." It was always subtle, just enough to plant doubt without making it obvious. And sure enough, weeks later, that same co-worker openly challenged her authority in front of their boss, positioning himself as the better leader. The betrayal wasn't sudden. It had been happening in plain sight all along. So how do you stop this before it escalates? First, recognize the pattern. If someone's words consistently undercut you, it's not an accident. Second, don't brush it off. Call it out, whether privately or publicly. And third, protect your reputation. How others see you is shaped by what you allow. At the end of the day, words are powerful. If someone is subtly undermining you, don't wait for the betrayal to become obvious. The best way to stop it is to expose it before it fully forms. Number 6. Mixed signals mean one thing: they're hiding their true intentions. Loyalty is never confusing. It doesn't leave you questioning where you stand. It doesn't make you feel like one moment you're valued and the next you're invisible. But when someone starts sending mixed signals, when their words paint one picture but their actions tell another, that's not confusion. That's deception in disguise. One day, they act like your biggest supporter. The next, they're cold, distant, or even dismissive. They tell you they have your back, but when the moment comes to prove it, they're nowhere to be found. Here's the hard truth. If someone's behavior is inconsistent, it's because their loyalty is too. Betrayal doesn't just happen, it builds. It starts with small contradictions, with subtle hesitations, with little moments that don't add up. At first, you might brush it off. Maybe they're just busy. Maybe you're overthinking it. But deep down, something feels off. And that feeling isn't paranoia. It's your instincts warning you. Epictetus once said, "Truth needs no rehearsing." When someone is genuine, their words and actions align effortlessly. But a betrayer? They have two realities to manage: the lie they tell you and the truth they're hiding. And the cracks always start to show. A man I know, let's call him James, trusted his business partner completely. At first, everything seemed solid. His partner was engaged, enthusiastic, and always ready to collaborate. But over time, James noticed inconsistencies. In private, the partner was all in. In group meetings, he was vague, hesitant, even dismissive of their shared plans. When James asked what was going on, he was met with laughter. "You're reading too much into things." But James wasn't. Weeks later, he discovered his partner had been secretly negotiating with a competitor. The mixed signals weren't accidental, they were a warning. So how do you handle people like this? First, don't ignore inconsistencies. If their words don't match their actions, something is wrong. Second, don't let them gaslight you. If you feel confused, it's not because you're overthinking, it's because they're being unclear on purpose. And third, trust patterns, not excuses. One contradiction might be a mistake, but repeated contradictions, that's a strategy. At the end of the day, truth is simple. Lies take effort. And if someone keeps sending you mixed signals, ask yourself, are they truly confused, or are they trying to confuse me? Because the moment you see through the inconsistency, the betrayal loses its power. Stay sharp and trust what their actions, not their words, are telling you. Number 7. Your gut never lies. If something feels off, trust it. Some warnings don't come in words. They come as a feeling, a quiet discomfort, an unease you can't shake. You don't have proof, but something isn't right. The way they hesitate before answering, the forced smile that doesn't reach their eyes, the energy that feels off. Their words may be perfect, but their tone, their timing, their body language, it all tells a different story. And while your logical mind struggles to make sense of it, your intuition already knows the truth. Betrayal rarely happens suddenly. It builds, piece by piece, in small, unnoticed moments. And your subconscious is constantly picking up on clues, micro-expressions, voice inflections, tiny shifts in behavior that your rational mind hasn't fully processed yet. Marcus Aurelius once said, "A wise man trusts his reason, not his emotions, yet never ignores the signs." This is where so many people go wrong. They dismiss their gut feeling, convince themselves they're being paranoid, and ignore the very instinct designed to protect them. Think of it like walking into a room where something feels off. Maybe it's too quiet. Maybe the air feels heavy. Maybe there's an unspoken tension hanging in the space. You can't explain it, but you can feel it. That's your intuition working before your logic catches up. And when it comes to betrayal, that feeling is often your first and only warning. A woman I know, let's call her Olivia, learned this firsthand. She had a business partner she trusted. Everything looked perfect on paper. No red flags, no conflicts. Yet something in her gut told her something wasn't right. His enthusiasm felt forced, his eye contact became scarce, and his energy had shifted. Instead of brushing it off, Olivia paid attention. And soon, she discovered the truth. He had been setting up a secret deal behind her back. The evidence came later, but her instincts had already warned her. So how do you handle this? First, don't ignore your gut. If something feels off, take it seriously. Second, gather information before reacting. Intuition is powerful, but logic should confirm it. And third, don't let anyone talk you out of what you feel. Sometimes your instincts see the storm before the clouds even appear. At the end of the day, betrayal doesn't come with a loud warning. It comes with a whisper, a hesitation, a feeling, and the biggest mistake you can make, ignoring it. At the end of the day, betrayal is never as sudden as it seems. The signs are always there. Subtle shifts in behavior, contradictions in words, forced kindness, and that gut feeling that refuses to be ignored. The key is learning to recognize them before it's too late. Awareness is your greatest defense. The more you pay attention, the less power betrayal has over you. If this insight resonated with you, hit like, subscribe, and share. Someone else might need this warning. Have you ever ignored the signs and regretted it? Drop your story in the comments. Let's learn from each other.